Alright guys, this is Oakley. We're doing another online battle. This is going to be me playing as Egypt against an army composed of Bactrians. So my forces here, I actually have far fewer in number than I should. So Rhodian Slingers here, 2 Thorax Packmen, 2 Hellenic Royal Guards, backed up by, what is that? Yeah, 4 Thorax Swordsmen, 2 Citizen Cav. I did bring elephants, even though they are kind of hidden away in the bushes here. And then I also have additional troops over on this flank, Citizen Cav. So my force is actually pretty small, and so I've deployed in the woods because I'm pretty scared of my opponent's army. Figure he has a lot of troops, which he does. So Rhodian Slingers are going to be pushing up here, backed up by pikes. That's going to be my main thrusting force to probe my opponent. Take a look at this. I don't know how he afforded this. It's pretty scary, but in any case, he has 2 of these Bactrian Noble Horse. Another one here. He's going to have a couple of these Scythian horse archers. He has 3 of them over there. Then on top of this, he has 4 Persian light archers. He has 5 of these levy pikemen, Thorax swordsmen, Bactrian royal guards, and that's a pretty impressive force. These cav can definitely take mine. Those elephants will wreck any of my swordsmen, and he has more pikes than I do. He has more skirmishers than I do. He even has scorpion units. So overall, this is going to be a close battle. So what I'm doing here is I kept my forces here in the woods, kept them on hold fire until the last possible moment when these guys were very close, and that allowed me to just absolutely wreck these guys with a couple volleys. They can't really see what they're shooting at, and it allows me to just, look at that, 1 volley, I do tremendous amounts of damage, and I have some cav hidden here for support. Take a look at this. I've lost, okay, maybe now 10 troops for his 31 actually. He does even have some of his scorpions shooting at my guys, so that's a pretty big waste. I try and waste even more of his cavalry shots by attacking and retreating here. I'm trying to bait him into the charge, and you're going to see now I am able to finish off more and more of his troops just with one of these slingers. I probably should have brought more. I should have brought more cheaper troops, and I'm going to have to fare without. In any case, his forces are going to be pushed back. He's pretty scared, and this main army is now going to be pushing forward. I think he senses that my weakness is going to be here, so he's going to go ahead and chase these guys off. Remember that these pikes are hidden, so I'm moving them up slowly in the forest. I know his cavalry are coming, and so that's why I'm pushing them forward. He thinks he has an easy target to my guys here, and I'm going to make sure these guys go out on this flank to keep his cav from engaging too heavily with my guys. And I'm going to tell my guys to retarget him just to try and goad my opponent into an attack. He doesn't quite see my forces just yet, and this is going to be a problem. My guy's getting hit on the side, but what I'm trying to do is pin these forces in. I know he's going to turn back once he sees my pikes, so I want to be able to hit them not only with my skirmishers, but also with my troops here. Let's put this on slow motion. So my thinking was to bait this guy in to the last moment. He's going to see my pikes, and as he sees them, okay, either he can charge into the pikes, lose some men, he can turn around, and that's what he's going to be doing, and this is going to allow me to turn around and shoot him. At the same time, these guys were repositioned to go ahead and attack these guys. You can see how I've basically funneled them in. One is attacking from this side, another from this side. I hope to funnel his cav. I know if I can take those guys out, that'll be a huge advantage for me. His guys are going to definitely move right around my pikes, so at least he didn't get any kills right there. I'm going to try and retarget him, but what he's trying to do is to knock out my cav here, save his cav here. I'm hoping to catch up with these guys, but as light cavalry, of course, I'm going to have a hard time, and he's going to also be able to shoot behind the back, I believe, even though it doesn't seem like they are. Yep, there we go. So he's going to be doing more and more damage to me. This is going to be a problem for me. You'll see why in the near future. In any case, my forces are still mostly hidden here. Elephants are out of range from his pikes, or from his scorpion, and then these cav are actually going to be moving up these woods. I'm hoping he's distracted enough to allow me to attack through here. He's just biding his time with these troops, trying to see how many he can pick off on the side. It's a good move, mostly because my guys here are going to be losing, 5 men there, and they're going to be slowly picked off. I'm telling these guys to go around this flank because I want to cut him off in case he retreats there. And my elephants, I know, can pick off his cav if they go that way. But it's costing more and more of my troops. It's probably not the best thing. What I should do now is try and retreat and reform. Go back to my own skirmishers who are now going to be trying to chase after these guys. But you'll see what this leads to. So let's go ahead and put it on play. So I'm going to try cutting off his guys, continue to do that. His own horse archers are basically the same speed as me, and coming up behind are these noble cav who are pretty strong. So this is a force I definitely want to avoid, especially if I have to turn out and engage and he has horse archers. He's going to sacrifice one of them just so that I can come in here, maybe, you know, kill his guys, do some damage, but for the most part they're going to be holding their own just in time for those cav to get engaged. So it's a real problem because I brought his guys down, but he gets a perfect charge on the rear of my guys. I'm going to line these guys up for a charge onto the rear of his men, but as heavy cav I'm not going to be able to kill them quick enough, and these archers are going to be laying into me from the back against horses facing the wrong way. It's going to be devastating. So there you go, my guys are already at half strength, falling rapidly. I got a rear charge on his men, but his noble horse is just so strong that even a charge like that is not going to do much. These cav start fleeing at 30. More archers can just pick them off at will, so that's going to be the signal that I've lost on this side of the battle, and it's going to severely hamper my mobility if I lose both my cav on this front. Really not the best move on my part. I figured I could catch his cav, and I didn't anticipate his cav here being so quick, and the battle is really going to go against my favor. You can see the archers just coming in here are massacring my men. His noble cav are even stronger than my own troops, so I think they could handle me even on their own. So that's going to be it for my forces on this side. I decided to pull out while I still have men. I know I need these cav in order to not be fully at the mercy of his troops here. I'm going to start creeping these Rhodians forward. Their main advantage is they have a good amount of ammo and a good amount of killing power at a distance, more so than his archers. So here we go, we're going to reform, and now we're going to look at these archers who are going to move up here. They're not really going to know what hit them. Out of nowhere, lightly armored guys are going to get destroyed, and shooting against me in the forest, he's really not going to be able to do much damage. Let's see, I have 74 men. After one volley, I lost, about 2 men, and I was able to kill, a good amount of his. At the same time, I do have cav hidden over here who can maybe land a strike on his troops. I'm retreating, going to face my guys the other way to hit these cav, and I'm going to reform my own cavalry here. Hopefully be able to chase his guys off. But at this point, my opponent is going to push through here. He's thinking of going after my elephants, and he doesn't quite know that I have this whole row of forces here. They're going to get up and greet these invaders. So my opponent now knows what is comprising my force. And this is probably going to embolden him as he's going to be moving forward relatively soon. His cav, however, are going to be pushing right through my elephants. Probably not the best move, as I could turn these elephants around and smash through these guys. I don't think his archers have nearly enough killing power to get me. Over here he's going to try and charge right through here. Probably a bad move because I'm able to get him with some of my slingers, hit him from the side with my cav, and then reinforce with my pikes. So that's going to be knocking out those guys. His guys back here are going to be at the mercy of my elephants. So I'm going to be paying back doubly the casualties he did for me. They're going to be moving forward. Yes, they're bloodied, but it's not much damage, especially since I can chase these guys off. Just keeping them off my back for long enough is good. Rout one of them because of the fear and the flaming arrows I have on my general. These guys here, he was able to hurt my citizen cav. They're already pretty low, but his noble horse is taking a ton of damage, and now they're going to get charged. Let's see that. Throwing in some of these spears against these units. He's going to have to charge, retreat away from me. More of my men coming in, really forcing them back. At the same time over here, my elephants didn't want to get too engaged. I didn't want to get too winded or suffer too much damage, so I'm going to keep retreating. These guys are still full health, so I'm going to push some of these thorax spearmen here. He's going to try and countercharge my guys here. Last moment, he decides to think better of it, and then he charges back in again, which is going to be a death sentence for his troops. Look at my pikes right here. Let's just go ahead and drop these forces. Okay, maybe not. They should be dropping their pikes soon. Pikes are still finicky, but once they do, they're going to just absolutely wreck his forces here, tear them a new one. Infantry here are going to be crushing his men. So that's going to be it for his heavy cav on this side, which gives the cav advantage back to me. Skirmishers are going to be supporting my troops here. I'm already doing some damage, and thorax swordsmen are pretty heavily armored. At the same time, he's going to decide to push up slowly through the forest. He should have probably moved much quicker than this. Again, I do have my cav now in a perfect flanking position. And, yep, that's it. Noble horse has been shattered. These guys are at the mercy of my slingers who can outrange them and do more damage. So, he's pretty neutered at this point in the sense of his cavalry mobility. However, here comes the main bulk of his forces, and he also has guys on this flank. He's targeting my forces here. Thorax pikemen are relatively well armored, but I decided to put them in thin lines as well as having them in the forest just to soak up the fire of his troops. And yeah, it's really not going to be doing much against my guys. If this were an open field, I would probably be losing this unit within a couple volleys, but I'm using the terrain to my advantage to win. Over here, he decided to charge right at my slingers, but I was able to do enough damage to him that he basically broke before he could get to me. Additionally, these guys threw their spears, so that's it for his cav in the back of my lines. It's going to allow me to move forward. You know, soaking up more fire, and I decide this is going to be the time to charge straight through his men, force his archers back, give me cover to allow these thorax swordsmen to move up. Usually when you attack these kinds of lines right here, you want to try and push forward and keep his archers from doing too much damage. So 1, I'm soaking up the fire here, 2, I'm throwing in my elephants. Now they're taking a lot of hits, 1 goes down, another one soon after, but I'm able to crush through these guys here. And my elephants are now going to start rampaging, but at least they're in and amongst my enemy. They sort of softened them up for my approach. However, you can see, you know, all the archers are going to be redirecting their fire on them, so I should lose them pretty soon. Pretty big problem. My own horses here have scooted to the back. My opponent is not knowledgeable of this. And there you go, all my elephants lost to the mass fire of his own troops. So this puts me in a pretty vulnerable position. I have no heavy hitting units to crack his army. All I have are my high-end troops, not enough of them, and if I were to bide my time and hold my own, my opponent can outrange me, take out my troops. So on this side, I'm going to try and hold my own and defend against these elephants. I'm going to push up pretty aggressively in the front. His cav are poised for a strike, but you know, when I get within range, I can chase his archers back. I'm going to try and form up here, push his elephants, and do a rear charge with these cav. This is going to be a very important part of the battle. My opponent charges through to my pikemen, who are not in perfect formation here. You know, I do get my pikes back up, but he's really thrashing me. I do get my own slingers, some of these units charging through here. So his elephants land a very solid strike, cripple my thorax pikemen. However, I'm putting a lot of fire. I got those guys leveled. I charge in at some of his guys from the front and then from the back with my own cavalry who are holding off in the back. They're going to charge now into his pikes. That's going to allow the distraction that I was talking about, where I can charge right through here, try and break open his forces. My own thorax swordsmen were chasing his troops, and they're going to try and reform. However, they're kind of pulled into this. Elephants are going to charge right into my pikes. They have trouble dropping their spears. However, it's going to be enough to, I think, hold them off. More cav is sweeping around me. I'm going to tell these guys to charge, break off, and charge his archers. Over here, I just get many more troops on his elephants, so that's going to be taking them out. However, I do find elephants take too much to kill. Very cost-effective units, and I really don't like fighting them, especially these Indian armored elephants. They just soak up so much fire. Here, I'm sending in more and more troops, but they're just not dying. It's looking pretty desperate for me. I am, however, able to get a nice turning point here when he charges straight into these pikes, hit in here, baiting him with my own slingers. So, killing more and more of his cav. I am now able to move around the flank here. I've got spears facing his elephants. However, I'm having kind of a glitch with my troops where I told them to engage, but they're just not. At the same time, they're going to be taking the withering fire of his archers. At this point, I've got my cav still marauding, distracting these noble horse. And now I'm going to be facing his troops here. Because they're such low quality troops, I can get my guys in and amongst these men. Once I hit the backs of his spears, they should be cracking, very quickly. Levy pikemen really can't hold up to my troops, so he's throwing more and more of them out of pike formation. That's a bad move. I'm going to be able to cut through those guys, especially with royal peltas who have high damage. So all I need to do is clean up these guys, which I am, but the models of the elephants on the ground are actually keeping me from pushing forward. You can see here they're stuck on those elephants. Pretty big problem. Over here, his cav are going to be finished off finally. I am still having trouble killing his elephants on this side. That's a huge problem for me. I really need to liberate these troops. I will be doing that in the near future. His archers have reformed. They're going to be shooting into my men here, shooting into my men here. However, I am getting a pretty good edge here with my Bactrian royal guards. Actually, those are his Bactrian royal guards who charge around the flanks of my guys. I'm going to have my own guys form up behind here. I think I'm attempting to get them in line to form up with spears. Yeah, I'm repositioning them so they break out of combat and drop their spears. I say fuck it and just charge right into the backs of his men. My thorax pikemen are still holding up very well. Or the royal peltas, yeah, they get a lot of damage done, but still doing many kills. Same with these guys. You can see I'm crushing through his troops when I do get engaged with them. And my own cavalry who were over here, I'm not sure where they went. I think they were finished off by the noble horse who caught up. Here I'm finally able to finish off his elephants. That's going to allow me to re-engage. Let's go ahead and put this on slow motion just so we can talk a little bit more about what's going on. This flank is causing me the most issues just because I have two of these thorax swordsmen who I desperately need in the fight. They really can't finish off his elephants. Over in the center, these guys are going to be holding up very, very well. They're going to be presenting their spears to the enemy guys here who are out of formation. Yes, these guys are around the flanks, but those are really light infantry, so I can absolutely murder them. However, the Baktria noble horse moving around the flanks who can charge my guys are going to be able to possibly break that. These guys are moving into support to crush this flank. Over here, Hellenic Royal Guard as well as Royal Peltas should be able to take out the enemy general. That's going to be extremely beneficial to me, as well as this fight here. It is Thorax Swordsmen against Archers and Thorax Swordsmen, so I will be losing that, but that's a little bit down the road. These guys are in deep formation, engaged with his pikes who are now reforming. So at a glance, it looks like my opponent is going to be able to wrap up this flank. Rear charge with his noble horse is going to destroy my guys here. So things are not looking good for me. I'm barely holding on to the center. He's getting around the flanks, and with these forces freed up, he's going to be able to charge into the backs here. However, I am making progress against his general on this side. He should be dying. That's going to be a morale blow to his pretty frail troops. Over here, I am going to be facing reform pikes, but here comes my Hellenic Royal Guard right here. I have lost these troops. There goes his general, so I'm going to be freeing up more men. It's very, very close battle. It seems like I'm going to lose, but things will be looking up a little bit once I get these guys engaged. However, at this point, I know that, look at this, I'm going to be facing a charge in the back from his elephants. Really good use of these elephant troops. And they're going to be cracking these guys who would otherwise hold his forces back almost indefinitely. However, those elephants, keep in mind, have been in the fight for a long while, and they should be dying. Yep, you can see right here. It's pretty funny in slow motion. Yeah, they're going to be dying pretty readily, so at least I'm going to be dealing damage to those troops there. I am pushing forward here. However, these archers in the back are doing relatively good amounts of damage. Cleaning up more and more of his men, sweeping through here. If I can get rid of these thorax pikemen, I'm pretty happy in the sense that these Hellenic Royal Guard can hold up. And yeah, I really need to get these guys out of this battle. They've been losing a lot, not really making much progress, so I'm going to go ahead and pull them back, I think, in the near future. At the same time, I am using, however, these Hellenic Royal Guards to just guard against these Bactrian Noble Horse. They're going to be a problem because if they can land a strike into the back of my remaining Royal Peltas, that, again, to use the word neuters, that'll neuter my capacity to deal damage to my opponent. But take a look at this. I have, what, 3 units here to my opponent's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 units. So 3 versus 10. However, we'll see how this progresses. Let's go ahead and put this on play. So on this flank, I lost to these spearmen, and the rest of my forces here were mopped up. Over here, I'm holding up pretty well. It should be an even fight. However, I'm forced to have these guys face the cav at all times. I'm going to turn around and there we go. Finally kill his elephants who charged against me. That's going to be the time for his cav to reform. However, I'm going to turn around at the last minute and drop my pikes into the rest of his cav. So in one hit, I'm able to take out some of his cav and his elephants. Now here comes the main problem. He's going to follow up with that by throwing in his own levy pikemen, his own Persian light archers, and just charging all my troops here. So this is going to come down really to the last man. So I'm charging in here with my pikes, constantly telling to face one direction, face another. But just due to these Hellenic Royal Guards stats, they're going to hold up. See these light archers, they're going to be dying just to like a couple men. Finishing them off, they're going to break. Pikes facing to the front are going to hold off these additional reinforcements. These levy pikemen on the side are going to start dying. These cav are not super effective. And I still have my Royal Peltas kicking ass over here. These guys, thank God, reformed. They're going to be charging into this fight, keeping the remainder of his forces from really swarming my men, because that's the best way for him right now to kill me. Now, these guys are going to be holding steadfast. It's kind of an awkward thing. Yeah, it's a little awkward going on here. So they're going to be holding their own. My general, I'm going to decide to pull through my pikes, through him, they're going to try and fall back to the back of my pikes. However, they're going to rout in the process. I'm able to push these pikes a little bit forward and kill one of his elephants. And you can see how he's getting around all my flanks. This is obviously a huge problem. However, I'm going to keep them here just because I want to take out the main force here. These guys are crumbling, and you know, he's pushing on all flanks, all sides, and it's looking pretty desperate. However, once again, the stats of these guys are going to prove their worth. They can turn, pull out their swords. I broke the front, so that means I can go ahead and turn around, face these guys. And it looks like they're scattering on both sides. So actually, they're reforming to try and fight against these troops here. However, Thorax Swordsman, 41, against Levy Pikeman out of pike formation. I will win that. He's forced to disengage on that flank. So it looks like I may be able to turn this around. Charge right through here. And the Levy Pikemen are going to get slaughtered against Swordsmen, especially when they're out of formation. So that's going to allow me to even the fight up there. My pikemen I'm telling to reform. I really don't care if these light archers are in my back. They can't do anything. So I'm going to be facing against his troops here, trying to keep them from doing significant amount of damage to me, which is pretty effective. And look at this. A couple of my guys are delegated in the back to just finish off these peasants. Yeah, not much they can do. The cav should be coming in for a rear charge, which is going to be the main problem. However, they're going to decide to try and wipe out my swordsmen here. My swordsmen are somehow miraculously going to hold in on this charge. His cavalry are probably pretty weak, pretty depleted, pretty tired. So I'm actually going to hold against that. 27, 26, I'm dropping, but at the same time, so is his cav. So I'm holding there. And look at this. My Hellenic Royal Guard were able to finish off these guys, not even facing them. My opponent decides to pull off these troops, thinking that he can go ahead and break my forces on that side, which he does. But look at this, Levy Pikemen are scared now, so all he has is cav units against these Levy Pikemen. So it's going to be, yep, that's it. Two of my opponent's forces against my own Hellenic Royal Guard. Still 84 troops strong, so these guys are badasses. Yep, now they have triple chevrons, so they're going to be facing off against these forces. I decide at first to push forward, and then I realize that's exactly what my opponent wants. He wants to sandwich me. So what I'm going to try and do is resist being outmaneuvered. I'm going to pull ahead down to the bottom of the screen here. By being on that side, I can outpace his own spears. If he wants to slow me down, he has to engage me with his horses. I'll spin around and just form up in pike formation. What I'm trying to do is find somewhere where I can back my guys up against the wall. However, now he has 3 forces coming in, so this is going to be close. He decides to just charge in, do everything he can to halt me, and hope to form around with his cav. Ominously, my guys pull out their spears, and I'm going to be reforming. I tell my guys to attack these forces here. They drop their pikes, charge in the back by cav, but his momentum was broken up a bit by the terrain, and I'm just telling them to push forward, and the battle was decided as a draw. So I'm not really sure who would have won that. I think just seeing the stats of these guys, I think they probably would have finished off these guys. I could have spun around and taken out these guys, and I think I would have had that battle, but seeing how it turned out, you know, 3 of my guys against 11 of his, coming down to what this was, very, very close battle, very enjoyable. I had a real problem taking out these elephants, and I myself misused my own elephants, so some faults on both sides, but it really came down to I think the elite infantry that I brought really paid off, and they really shone in the thick of the battle. So looking at some of the stats, you can see, yep, elephants definitely killed 301, 106, doing tons of damage. His scorpions didn't do too much. Archers did pretty handedly, but my own guys here, Royal Peltis, really carving into his troops. These Hellenic Royal Guard doing well. So overall, I think my troops did well. However, you can see my opponent brought definitely more troops here, but these guys were really what broke. He couldn't hold up a front, and the elephants were all that really dealt the damage that he needed, as well as some of these cav. So that's going to be it for this battle. I hope to see you guys next time.